Morning. We're going to be starting now a new fresh Maimer, Pashas Viyachi, page Mem Hey. The theme of this Maimer is going to be explaining the different names of Reuven, Shimon, Levi and Yehuda, and how it corresponds to the different levels of Davening. Fascinating Maimer, and it's going to be explaining primarily the name of Yehuda. That Yehuda comes from the lashon of Yehuda, thanks, submissive, giving yourself over, and he's going to explain the idea of bittul. Heard a story now from the Tzemach Tzedek. In the times of the Tzemach Tzedek, there was two chassidim. One chassid gave another chassid a loan, and came time to pay back the loan. He says, "Einay mavadei." What do you mean, "Einay mavadei"? I lent you the money. You got to pay me back. He says, "No, stuck in Welt. They're stuck in Eberster. There's no world. There's no Eberster. There's only the Eberster. Geld blotte." So the chassid came to the Tzemach Tzedek and told him what's going on. So the Tzemach Tzedek called him in. Called this Levi in, the borrower. I told him, "My high, you borrowed the money? Yeah. So why are you pulling the chassidus card? Ain't a mavadi." So the Tzemach Tzedek told him, I don't remember the exact lashon Yiddish, but we're gonna place you on the floor, and we're gonna take a belt and whip you, and see if they're stuck in zich, ain't a mavadi. So we're gonna learn what the idea of bittul is. In yeshiva, we bring about it a lot. What's the idea of self-nullification? What's the idea of... But to define bittul is basically, it's not about you, it's about the cause. It's nicht wegen sich, it's about what it stands for. So that's what we're going to be learning in this Maimer. And let's start. That's the message.
The message, not the messenger.
Right. Okay, so he says like this, Yehuda, Pasuk says, Yehuda, ata yiducha achecha, which means Yaakov is blessing or reprimanding his children right before he passes away. And he says about Yehuda, your brothers will be, literally means yiducha achecha, which means they're going to be submissive to you. He says, "Hine Yehuda nikra al shem hapam oida." The name of Yehuda comes from what Leah said when Yehuda was born. She said hapam oida, which means this time I will give thanks. But it doesn't only stop mean thanks; it means like giving thanks in a humble way. Because Leah made a cheshbon. There's 4 imois. Each one will have 3 children. The fact that she had a 4th child, she felt that she has to give thanks to the Eibishter. So, hapam oida. What does this mean? What's this idea of hapam oida? B'chinas heido shebechlalis neshamas Yisrael. This corresponds to the submissiveness and gratitude to Hashem that is found in the by Neshamas Yisrael, by the Yidden. Which means that we say in Davening, we thank Hashem, and we bow down to Hashem. So that's the idea of Yehuda. The idea of Yehuda is submissiveness, humbleness, being thankful, but in a very humble way, meaning you feel you don't really deserve it. Elo shalamato. Now, down over here in this world, sorry, the fishu tachas hazman, since we are in the limitation of time and space, so a nikra, we call it hapam oida, this time. In other words, the question is, if every single yid it has the level of haidah, has the level of submissiveness, and that's the level of Yehuda, so what does it mean, hapam oida, this time? So he says, because lamata, when we're under the limitation of time and space, this submissive gratitude is called this time, because shaloi kol ha'itim shavis, not all the times are the same. Aval, lamailo, however, lamailo, b'mker chaytzav nishmeiseyem, lamailo, from which the souls, where they stem from, hu lamailo min hazman. This is beyond limitation of time. V'sham nikra Yehuda. And there, at that level, we call it Yehuda, which means he will always humbly give thanks. Whenever you have the word yud in front of a letter that shows on something which is constant. Like it says in Eov, Kocha Yasa Eov, as it says, this is what Eov would always do. It says that the Rashi says over there in Eov that the pasuk is speaking about how Eov had a custom to bring karbonos to Hashem as a kapara for possible sinful behaviors for his children. And this is something that he would always do. Kocha Yasa Eov, he would always bring karbonos. So Yasa, whenever you have a yud in front of a letter, it means constantly. So you have Yehuda, and then Yehuda. What's Yehuda? That there's this constant level of giving thanks, of feeling a sense of gratitude. Now, Yehuda is kama yoide b'teisefes hey. Yehuda, nichtav Yehuda b'segel tachas hadalas, which means that there's always a constant thanks to Hashem. So what does it mean by Leah saying, this time I will give thanks? Hainu acher leida v'izgalos p'nes Reuven, Shimon, Levi, after you have the revelation of Shimon, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, shehem heim goymrim l'p'chinas hadaya zua, which they are the ones that cause this submissiveness, this gratitude. So the level of Yehuda is Yehuda, gratitude, humbleness. However, in order to get to the level of Yehuda, you have to have Reuven, Shimon, Levi, whatever those levels in Avodah mean, you have to have those levels first. And this is what Yaakov was saying, that your brothers will cause your level of Yehuda to be expressed. So Yiducha Achecha, who causes the level of Yehuda, this is through Achecha, your brothers. He says like this. To understand this explanation, Hini, Reuven, who al Shem, Reuven. Reuven, Rachel called Reuven, Leah called Reuven, because Reuven is comprised of two words, Reuven, which literally means, see my son. Rashi over there explains that she was saying that the difference between my son and the son of my father-in-law, Yaakov. In other words, the difference between Reuven and Esav. So Reuven is al Shem ben is Reuben, which is Pchinas Re'iyah. Re'u, look, see. That's the level of seeing. Pchinas Re'iyah zu hi hagedemes hamshachas Pchinas ha'ava. This level of seeing, it causes a person to be drawn to love something. You see something, so you love something. As it says in Yecheskel, there's a pasuk in Yecheskel, Perak Aleph, pasuk Yud says, Penei Aryeh el hayamin, which means that the face of the lion is on the right side. Now, whenever you have chesed and gvura, chesed is always the right, and gvura is the left. So when we say Penei Aryeh, that means that Aryeh, even though a lion is a very rough animal, but nevertheless, when Aryeh refers to the level of, Penei Aryeh is the level of chesed, which means Aryeh oisis re'iyah, that Aryeh, lion, has the same letters as seeing. So we see that seeing has to do with chesed. And that's how it was also in the times of the Mishkan, Degel Machne Reuven Teimana, that Reuven encamped on the south side of the Mishkan. So we see that Reuven, which is seeing, is the idea of chesed. Why? Because the idea of seeing is something that brings about drawing close, affectionateness. As it says in Hosea, Perek Tes, Pasuk Yud, Ki bakura b'te'ena b'reishisa ra'isa v'seichem. Like a ripe fig on a fig tree, in its beginning I saw your forefathers. Just like a person has a grape, he plants and he sows and he took care of his fig tree, and now he has a lot of simcha because of it, and especially the first fruit that comes out, he's very excited. So too, the Aves are compared to, and he uses a lashon isi avesechem, I saw your forefathers, which means that he loved the Aves, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So we see the idea of re'iyah has to do with chesed, has to do with love. V'zeo, and this is what it means, that after Leah had Reuven, what does she say? Kira Hashem, she says that Hashem saw, and now she said, Ki ata yehavani ishi, now my husband will love me. So we see that love that seeing causes love. This idea of seeing causes one to draw close. What does that mean? Is this is the idea of gazing at the glory of the king. Hashem is the king, and gazing at his glory refers to thinking deeply into the true greatness of Hashem. So Reuven is the idea of re'iyah, of seeing. Seeing, when you see something, you tend to love it, if you like what you see. The idea of Reuven, what does it mean in Avodah? It means that you're gazing at the glory of the king. And you're thinking deeply, like he's going to explain soon in the Maimer, into the greatness of Hashem. So he says, Weiter, L'oira Sa'ava, to awaken the love for Hashem until it brings the person to a true desire to connect to him. And this is why the Chacham instituted. Why do they establish the idea of Yetzer Eir Psukkah de Zimra before Kriya Shema? In order to come to the ultimate level, like we say, how is it possible to come to actually love the Eibishter? So this is through saying Psukkim of Psukkah de Zimra, which come from Tehillim, which describe how how the Eibishter takes care and runs the world, and he makes miracles for us. And Yetzer Eir describes that the sun and the moon and everything else, all the angels praise Hashem. So when we think into the Psukkim of Yetzer Eir, of Psukkah de Zimra, and we really contemplate and understand what we're saying, so through that, we will come to the level of Ve'ahavta. What's the purpose of praising Hashem? It's not enough just to have the knowledge that Hashem exists. In the back of your mind, subconsciously, I know Hashem exists. Because this is hidden. And we know, the famous Gemara in Bracha says, a Ganiv, he's about to steal, and he knows what he's committing is against Hashem, is against the Torah, and he says to Hashem, please help me. How is that possible? Because his knowledge in the Eibishter is only Yediyah, it's not on the level of Re'iyah. So it's not possible for a person to fulfill the commandment of loving Hashem if it doesn't come out of from hidden to revelation. So this consciously knowing and seeing, which a person will get in the level of Re'iyah, that is the level of the Stakala Dafke, is by specifically gazing at the glory of Hashem. What does that mean? Through telling over at length the praise of Hashem, and you deeply contemplate how your kingship is a kingship which rules over all the worlds. And millions of angels that serve Hashem, and hundreds of millions stand in awe before him. And he is the only one alone, who's the real existence, just like he is before the world was created. As it says, we learned a few weeks ago about this, the idea of Yachid Che'elam Melech, that the king who is the life of all the worlds. And he's Yachid, he's alone. Amit Shem Yachid Hu, what's the true idea of Yachid? Shulevadei Hu, that there's nothing else besides him. There's no other existence besides the Eibishter. V'inyan Yachid Hu, what's the idea of Yachid Hu? Shenimshach Pchinas Aleph Beches V'Dalit. Echad stands for, literally mean one. Echad shows an Achdus. So what's the Avodah? The idea is that Echad is you're taking the Achdus and you're bringing the Achdus into the Ches, which we said is the worlds, it's the seven worlds and the earth, the Dalid, and in the Dalid, Shem Zayin Nikim Va'aretz, you're taking the Achdus, you're taking the Aleph, and you're bringing it in to the Ches and the Dalid. What's the ultimate Avodah? Shiu B'Teilim Yechudi Yisparech is that they should be bottled to Hashem, to Hashem's oneness, to Hashem's Aleph. And furthermore, what's the Avodah is to take this chayis, this life force of the heavens and the earth, and to ascend that, to include it back in the makar of the Eibishter. That the chayis, the vitality, and the spiritual levels of all ruchnius, like it says, L'cha Hashem Agdula, to you Hashem is greatness. It's only Baruch, which means Baruch means to draw down. So what are we saying? Baruch Shem Kaved Malchus Le'elam Vad, that the name of his kingdom is Malchus. Since they are separate worlds, they only come from the level of Malchus of Hashem. So that's what we're saying we're saying all these praises in Psukkah de Zimra, and then we come along and we say Shema Yisrael, which like we know the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, Shema Yisrael is Yichud Ilah, Baruch Shem is Yichud Tata, and we're saying that all these Elef Alafim and all these different levels, and even the Ruchnistic worlds that we have, all only come from the level of Malchus. And then what's the Avodah? When a person will think deeply into these ideas, that he has the revelation of his brain, not only with the knowledge. Then it will produce a revealed love for Hashem in his heart. Like David HaMelech writes, that my soul yearns and longs for Hashem. And then he'll come to be Mekayim ve'ahavtas Hashem lekecha mamish tahainu l'dovke bei be'ein seif baruch hu mamish. That'll come to be able to connect with the infinite Eibishter, as it says, Mili Bashamayim, who is in the heavens, and doesn't want me. Okay, so we explained till now, just to go over the first paragraph. We said like Yehuda ata yiducha achecha, that Yehuda, it's your brothers who cause your level of Yehuda. So we said that the name of Yehuda is Al Shema Apam Oida, that this time, like Leah says, I will give thanks. What does it mean? Giving thanks means the idea of bittul, that the neshamas Yisrael in their source have a certain bittul. However, since when the neshama comes down over here and it's concealed by the guf, it doesn't always feel that sense of gratitude. So that's what Leah means by saying hapam oida. However, lamaila, we call it the name Yehuda, which means like kocha yasiyuv, that this gratitude is always there constantly. So he says that the gratitude, the level of bittul that we experience, or that we're meant to experience, has to be with the hachana of Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. And we explained that because just having a yidiyah about the Eibishter is not enough. You can have a ganva, you can have a ganiv who's about to go steal, and he's saying, Rachmana, help me, Eibishter, help me. How is that possible? Because his level of knowledge of Hashem only is yidiyah, it's only knowledgeable. It's not in a way of re'iyah. So then he started explaining that the idea of Reuven is Reuben, the idea of re'iyah, of seeing Elikus. That the, just like, which that's the idea of Yamin, Chesed, that the re'iyah causes Ava. Like she says about Reuven, and V'ata ki yavani ishi, now my husband will love me. And that means that you're looking at the glory of the king, and this is why in Psukkah de Zimra we talk about Yetzer and Avaselam, because the main kavana is to tell the shvachim of Hashem, in order that it should come not only in the idea, but that the mayach should be megala, that you should have really like a feeling and idea, not idea, a re'iyah for Hashem. And when a person contemplates in what Pesukei Zimra is saying, then he'll be able to come to the level of for Shema and then Baruch Shem, and then eventually he'll be able to experience the level of Ve'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha. And when a person contemplates in this, then what happens is, from his seichel, the midas are born, and he has a complete love and desire to be one with Ein Sof. Okay, let's go a little bit further. Vihinei ksiv, he says, it's written, we say Shema Yisrael, what do we say? B'chol levavcha. In all your hearts. And the Gemara in Bracha says, V'omer Razal b'shnei yitzarecha, with both your yetzaharas, Yetzer Teva and Yetzer Hara. The Hainu, what does that mean? Shtei ha'ava b'bchinas bal tshuva, that the love, your love to Hashem should be in a way of a bal tshuva. Now, ki tshuva eini dafke b'mi sheyesh b'yodei averes chas v'shalom. Tshuva doesn't mean somebody that chas v'shalom did averes. Ela afilu b'chol adam, every single person should be doing tshuva. What does it mean doing tshuva if you didn't do any averes? So he says, ki inyan tshuva hu lahashiv es anashalim kedev v'shashri. The idea of tshuva is to return the neshama to its source and its root. Shehoysa klula b'ma'atzila baruchu utzrura b'tzura chayim es Hashem mamash, to the level that it was included in the source of Hashem, who brought it into being, and it was literally beforehand bound up in the bound of life with Hashem. And afterwards it descended from a place of kaveda, honor, and it became clothed in a physical world. Even the most spiritual level of understanding that it can perceive in the physical body, it's still under the constraints of time and space. So what's the Aveda? And you have to return the neshama to its source. Al Yidei, through Vayitzaku el Hashem batzar lahem, through crying out to Hashem from their tsar, from their restraints. Ki tsar lehamakim, since the current situation is tsar, shubchinas meitzur gvul, because it's like it's restraint, it's limitation. Al zen nemar, and this is what it says. Asher itzeis yeschem eretz Mitzrayim. It says, I am Hashem who took you out of Mitzrayim, the land of Mitzrayim. What does that mean? Mepchinas meitzar, spiritually it means that Hashem took us out of the meitzar, of the restraints, of the limitation, through the bitterness that one feels from the opposite of Hashem. Tigdal ha'aval Hashem b'yeser seis li'isgal b'erin seif baruch hu ki yisna eir abam nacheshech. So through a person feeling the bitterness of the opposite of Hashem, through that, the love and yearning of Hashem to become included in the erin seif will be much greater, like the advantage of light that comes from the place of darkness. Azam Razal, and this is what Chazal and Bracha say, b'makom shebalei tshuva imdim, then the place that Bal Tshuva are, we say tzadikim gemurim ein yichel lamed. K'diisa b'zeir, as it says in Zeir, the moshchen lei b'cheli yatir, because the Bal Tshuva, they draw close to him with like a greater intensity. Is gileir in seif baruch hu mamish al nafshi, which causes Hashem's infinite light should be actually revealed in his soul. Achigam chayis haguf and nefesh habahamis v'kecheseim yishabchu v'yeshuv al Hashem, until the vitality of the body and the nefesh habahamis and all its soul powers will be transferred to Hashem, so that the darkness will be transformed into light. Okay, let's stop.